There's a facade in front of us right now. Politicians in Washington, D.C., or the CEOs of the big tech giant companies, with one or two exceptions. They're mostly singing the same tune. Don't worry about AI. Don't worry about robots. It's still a long way off, and they're going to create more jobs for people than they're going to displace. The truth is that that is a fiction.
When we look at 2026 and the immediate future, what changes do you see coming?
The big elephant in the room, overhanging everything else, is AI. This is it's a rocket ship that we're on. And it's one of those things where even with all the hype, it still deserves that hype. All of the key properties that we see, costs improving dramatically, capabilities improving dramatically. When you put those two things together with any new technology, you're going to see extremely rapid adoption of that new technology. But for now, I think 2026 is going to be, probably going to be the year where we really start seeing these capabilities affecting industries in a significant way. They're leaving the stage of being a gimmick, and they're entering the stage where they're actually genuinely useful. And so I think this could be a breakout year for artificial intelligence.
The thing that I don't understand is like, okay, if AI replaces all the jobs, then what does everybody do, right? Because if you replace the jobs, then nobody has money to buy the thing that, how does that math?
Yeah, that's exactly the right question to ask. And the truth is, let me say this at the very beginning, nobody has an answer for that question. That's the proverbial $64 trillion question that civilization has to answer. Humanity has to answer this because we are moving into a new paradigm. My team is working on this. We're modeling it. We're simulating it. We're trying to find out whether, for example, proposals for a universal basic income. Basically, you have in a democracy, you would agree that your government provides money, provides currency as an income, a basic income to everybody so that they continue to have that purchasing power. We don't have all the answers yet, but the sense of urgency is there. And I'm optimistic. And a lot of people are thinking very seriously about this. But I have to say, most of that is behind the scenes at the moment. There's a facade in front of us right now. If you listen to politicians in Washington, D.C., or the CEOs of the big tech giant companies, with one or two exceptions, they're mostly singing the same tune. Don't worry about AI. Don't worry about robots. It's still a long way off, and they're going to create more jobs for people than they're going to displace. That's the story we're getting right now. The truth is that that is a fiction. In the longer term, that's a fiction. On a sort of 15 to 20 year time horizon, if AI keeps going on this rocket ship, there's no plausible way in which the machines don't outcompete us by around 2040 in pretty much every domain. So right now we're having the wool pulled over our eyes about the long-term prospects of this a little bit. In the short term, it's true. Not everybody's going to lose their job next year. But it's an illusion, a delusion for our leaders to be telling us there's nothing to worry about here. There's nothing to see here. That's dishonest, I think. And the conversations I participate in behind closed doors with some of these folks, they're not under that illusion or delusion themselves. But I'm optimistic because I'll give you two reasons fundamentally why I'm optimistic about this. Because I don't want to leave this this question on a doom and gloom, disappointing, dismaying note. I'm super optimistic about this for two reasons. The first is energy, and the second is labor itself. Okay, what do I mean by that? The reason why anything at all, any good and service you can name, point to anything in your life or anything in the supermarket or anything around us that's valuable, the reason why it has a price tag on it is because it took a significant amount of energy and a significant amount of someone's labor to put that thing together, to make it, to get it to you, to distribute it, to package it up, to get it in front of you, to deliver it into your life, and so that you can make use of it. Any good and service is like that. And what I mean by that, and what we say in economic terms, is energy and labor are the fundamental factors of production. They go into making everything else. And what the great news is for being optimistic here is that as energy and labor become cheaper, so does absolutely everything else. As labor and energy become abundant, especially if they stay clean, which they will with today's technologies, everything else becomes abundant and available too. And what this means is that even if we lost our jobs, because all of these robots and AIs are doing all of the work, the work still gets done. In fact, probably way more work gets done. And if machines can do 10 times as much work as humans ever could, that means 10 times as much goods and services are around. And in principle, that could translate into vastly greater abundance and prosperity that we could, if we make good social choices together as societies, that we could distribute in fantastic ways. So what that means is, with these new technologies, our jobs are threatened, but abundance and prosperity could explode. And that's the prize that we have to keep our eyes on.
How long in your mind, and right, like just throwing out a prediction in the sense, how long do we go from kind of the difficult period to the paradise period, in the sense where like, okay, it's taking jobs, it's starting to get going, people are starting to get hit by it, so to speak. How long do we go from kind of that period to where it can, no, now we're in prosperity? Like how soft of a soft landing do we need to have? Like what's the time? Does this make sense what I'm asking? I think I'm
sure. Well,
not saying it very well, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like how long do we go, like how long do we have to go through hell to get to heaven?
I would be very surprised if the story weren't mostly told by 2045, 20 years from now. At the other end, how fast could it go? Well, this is where the past isn't that great of a guide. Things didn't change as fast in 1525, the year 1525, as they do in the year 2025. And it was a different world. And now information and everything else moves at the speed of light, basically. And so it's things can happen faster. So what would be about the most rapid that we would sort of be in the thick of this transformation and really need to be having our arms around this thing? It could be within 5 years. I would be very surprised if we're sort of seeing radical impacts of job displacement and total upheaval of our economic circumstances that are requiring really dramatic action from our governments. I would be surprised if we were in the thick of that before the end of 2027, so 2 years from now. But I would be surprised if we weren't in the thick of it by 2030. So that's my personal team's assessment is we have somewhere between 2 and 5 years, something like that, before we really are in the thick of this because of these arms race conditions.
Is there any push universally or worldwide to just say, you know what, everybody, stop. Maybe we shouldn't do this?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was a call from the technology community with policymaker support in Washington to structure this a little better. Slow things down is maybe well, there was a letter that had a very large number of prominent signatories from the technology community that circulated that was calling for a slowdown or a pause on AI development, to answer these very, very enormously important high stakes questions. And there was an attempt to slow things down on the regulatory side, or at least get things a little more narrowly guardrailed than they otherwise would have been. Unfortunately, or for better or worse, depending on how you look at it, within these arms race conditions around the world, that slowdown did not take. So there have been some efforts on that front, but those efforts were overwhelmed by this competitive pressure to stay in the lead in this race.